All right, let's dive in. Today, we're not just talking about tech stuff. We're jumping right into the middle of an invisible, ongoing war. This isn't a conflict fought with soldiers, but with code. And the battlefield? It's the digital world that all of us live in every single day. So have you ever really wondered how attackers actually get past all those defenses? It's not always the high-octane stuff you see in the movies. And on the other side of that coin, what does it actually take to stop them? That's the core question we're going to unpack. To really get a handle on cybersecurity, you have to see it for what it is, a digital battlefield. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to break down the playbook for both sides, the attackers and the defenders. Okay, first things first. Let's set the stage and meet the players on this digital battlefield. In the security world, operations are usually split between two teams. First, you've got the red team. They're the offense. Their job is literally to think like a hacker and find every single possible weakness. And on the other side, that's the blue team, the defense. They're the ones building the digital fortress and responding when things go wrong. One side builds the wall, the other side's job is to find the cracks. So here's the thing. To understand how to defend, you first have to understand how to attack. So let's put on our black hats for a minute and take a look at the attacker's playbook. A real cyber attack isn't just one single event. It's a methodical process, broken down into phases. It all starts with passive reconnaissance. That's gathering info from a distance. Then it moves to active scanning, where they start poking the target directly. And only after all that homework is done do they get to the final phase, exploitation. So that first phase is all about info gathering. Passive recon, which you'll also hear called OSINT, or open source intelligence, just uses publicly available data. It's super low risk because you're not actually touching the target's systems. But active scanning, that's a whole different ballgame. That's when attackers start directly probing a network, which is way noisier and comes with a much higher risk of getting caught. Here's a perfect, tangible example of passive recon. It's something called a Google dork. Yeah, weird name. But by using these advanced search commands, attackers can dig up sensitive files that were never meant to see the light of day, like log files that accidentally have passwords stored in plain text. It is absolutely wild what you can find just lying around on the open internet. Now, after doing that quiet recon, an attacker might move to active scanning with a tool like Nmap. A command just like this one does a stealth scan to find open digital doors, we call them ports, and a version scan to see exactly what software is running behind them. It's basically the digital version of walking around a building, checking every single window and door to see what kind of lock it has. Okay, so the attacker has done their homework. They've mapped out the network, they've identified some potential ways in. Now, it's time to actually breach the gates. And this brings us to a really key term, an exploit. This isn't some vague, abstract idea. It's a very specific piece of code, custom-built to take advantage of a single flaw. Think of it like a skeleton key that's been crafted for one specific broken lock. Its job is to open a door that was supposed to stay shut. Now, the ultimate goal for a lot of these exploits is to get something called a shell, which is basically just command line control over the victim's machine. A bind shell opens up a port on the victim's machine for the attacker to connect to, but that often gets blocked by firewalls. A reverse shell, though, is much sneakier. It actually makes the victim's machine connect out to the attacker. That can often bypass the firewall rules because to the firewall, it just looks like normal web traffic. But of course, sometimes you don't need a fancy key because the front door was just left unlocked by a weak password. If an attacker can steal a database of scrambled password hashes, they don't have to guess them one by one online. They take that file offline and just hammer away at it with incredibly powerful techniques like dictionary attacks, hybrid attacks, or rainbow table attacks, which use these giant pre-computed tables to crack hashes at lightning speed. All right, we've seen how the red team gets things done. Now let's switch jerseys and jump into the blue team's watchtower to see how in the world they defend against these very attacks. Hey, remember that Nmap scan from the attacker's playbook? Well, here's the flip side. This is the defender's view. A tool like Snort, which is an intrusion detection system, is always watching. It recognizes the unique digital signature of that Nmap scan and bam, it instantly fires off an alert. It's a constant game of cat and mouse. The attacker makes a move, the defender sees it happen. But, seeing the attack is one thing, but actually stopping it is something else entirely. And that's the crucial difference between an IDS and an IPS. An intrusion detection system is like a security camera. It detects a problem and it alerts you. But an intrusion prevention system, that's more like a security guard who not only sees the problem, but is empowered to step in and actively prevent it. But seeing one little move isn't enough. The truth is, defenders are absolutely flooded with millions of alerts and log entries every single day. The real challenge isn't just seeing the individual events, it's about connecting the dots to find the actual attack hiding in all that noise. And this really is the fundamental problem for any security team out there. A modern company's network generates this constant, massive river of data. So how on earth do you find the needle in the haystack? How do you spot that one genuine threat that's buried under mountains of normal activity? Well, the answer is a type of technology called a CM. That stands for Security, Information, and Event Management. The best way to think of it is as the central brain for the blue team. It pulls in all the logs and alerts from everywhere into one single place so they can actually be analyzed. So here's how it works, in a nutshell. First, the CM collects data from literally everywhere. But then comes the most important part. It correlates events to find patterns. For example, one failed login, that's nothing. But 500 failed logins from the exact same IP address in under a minute, now that's a pattern. The CM flags that as suspicious, creating a high-quality alert for a human analyst to finally investigate. So, this all brings us to our final and maybe most important point. Cybersecurity isn't a problem you just solve and walk away from. It's a constant, evolving conflict. It is a never-ending arms race between offense and defense. You can see this arms race playing out perfectly if you look at the history of major data breaches. Breaches at huge companies like Sony, Adobe, and Yahoo each exposed a specific critical weakness in how they were storing passwords, and in response, the entire industry was forced to adapt, moving to much stronger methods like salted hashing. Attackers find a new vulnerability, defenders build a better wall, and the race just begins all over again. And that leaves us with the final, crucial question to think about. In this perpetual digital arms race, who is really winning? Is it the attackers who only need to find one way in? Or is it the defenders who have to be right 100% of the time? That's something to chew on. Thanks for joining us.